following is an excerpt of tonight's brand new episode of the Geekvolution Radio Hour, airing on Krypton Radio at 7 p.m. Central Time. Tonight, Vince and I are discussing the enormous juggernauts comic book conventions have become and whether or not they're too overblown and generalized. Be there for that and more news topics, and thanks for watching. Oh boy, this is big news this week. Have you heard about this? Have you heard about
I have no idea.
Have you heard about the 60s Batman news?
Oh. No.
Okay, I'm so now you're not gonna care, but I'm so excited about this. We are getting for the 50th anniversary of Batman 66. So next year is gonna be a huge year because both Star Trek and Batman, two of my favorite things in the whole world, arguably my two favorite things in the whole world. Batman in general, but of course I love 66.
What about Jason and Freddy? I'm talking pop culture.
Next year, 50th anniversary of both of these things, we're going to get a new Star Trek movie. I'm not really excited about that because of what it is. Hopefully it's good. But we're going to get a 90-minute animated 60s Batman movie with Adam West and Burt Ward doing the voices.
That's
and I am
cool.
So excited about that. And there's
theatrical release?
I would imagine video. I mean, I think they could get away with that. I think they could totally get away with that and make a little bit of money with it, but I would be so surprised if that's where they went. Yeah, anyway, that's interesting you say that. Boy, I wish it was. But if it does well, they're talking about doing 2.
Ooh.
Oh man, that's really cool. Adam West and Burt Ward getting to go back and do it one more time.
Or 2 more times.
Yeah, that's so cool. Obviously, okay, so since we're talking about it, I guess I should speculate a little bit. First of all, my big question is, what animation house is doing this? Who's involved with this? It's certainly not likely to be the people that are doing the current direct-to-video animated movies. I hope not, because I haven't liked their stuff lately. It would be really cool if Bruce Timm was involved, because he loves that stuff, and he would know how to do it right and be authentic with it, and I want to know who's writing it.
Well, I mean, you look at some of the animated shows that have come out, not necessarily the movies, but like Batman Brave and the Bold. I mean, I feel like that sets a precedent for a potentially good 60 Batman movie. I mean,
well, and I don't know if you've ever heard the guy who show ran that and who came up with that show talk about it, but he actually is interviewed in the special features for the 60s Batman box set. And yeah, because he said when he made that, his goal was to try to, in animation, present what he thought the 60s Batman show was when he was a kid. So it's terrific. When he was a kid, filling in the gaps, he grows up and says, I'm going to make that show. I'm going to make the show I thought I was watching. And that's what Brave and the Bold was. So you're right. That guy deserves to write that. I would also say probably the very best pick over that guy, even I think over that guy just a little bit, would be Jeff Parker, because Jeff Parker's been doing the 66 comic and he's hitting it out of the park. They're wonderful. Even adapt a couple of those stories. I mean, like, that stuff's been wonderful. Almost every issue I've been in love with. So I'd love to see some of that team be. And there's been multiple teams. There've been multiple good writers, but Jeff Parker spearheaded that whole thing, and I think he deserves to write that. So I guess we'll see who's doing it, but they should go to comic book people. I mean, that's, unless they go to, anybody that's still around that worked on that show. I mean, that would be really cool. But I don't know. The other big question is, who do you go to for voices, and what's the villain cast going to be like? Because obviously a lot of folks are not around anymore.
You think they'll try to get impressionists or impersonators? I guess?
I hope so. I really wouldn't want it to be, okay, we've got Adam West and Burt Ward, and we're sort of doing 66, but it's more its own thing. So we're going to do a Riddler that's kind of like Frank Gorshin, but we sort of reinvented him. I want to see them straight up do 66 in animation. I mean, I want to see them do what they've done with the comic, which is go farther, because money's not as much of an object when you can draw and create anything you want to. So let it go farther. If you wanted to do Batman 66 in space or whatever, that's fine. I mean, go as far as you want to. That's totally cool. But make it that flavor. Have at least the formula there in some kind of a form. You know what I mean? Have some death traps. Do stuff like that. And I wouldn't even mind it being a vignette film. I mean, like if you want to do, like 4 or 5 shorts in 90 minutes. I mean, that'd be fine. That's sort of like what we've been doing in the comics. So. I mean, there's a million different ways to do it, but yes, to your question, I do hope that they find good impressionists.
Do you think that? I think maybe I missed something. So the comic book does a good job.
Yeah, it's wonderful
of keeping that original flavor. Do you feel like they've ever reinvented a character?
No, they've never reinvented one. They've always been, but they have made up new ones. that book has taken other comic book characters and done 60s versions of them.
Now, because we have this opportunity, you once said to me something that I thought was really interesting. You said that...
it happens every once in a blue moon.
You said that it's kind of a shame that they'll make these characters, like Two-Face or whoever, that wasn't in the 66 series, but they don't have... It's kind of a shame that they didn't use that opportunity to use the likeness of an actor from that time period.
Yeah, and I'm in the minority on this. I've said this to some folks, and they've kind of looked at me like, well, why is that a thing? And I'm like, because so much of the reason people watched that show was for the guest stars. I mean, it was as much about who was behind the costume as it was about the characters themselves. I mean, like, you know, I think the highest rated episode of that show was the one where Liberace showed up. Liberace was awful, in my opinion. I mean, he was having a good time and he was trying, but he was the wrong kind of over the top for that show. It didn't work. His character was obnoxious, but and what was even worse is that he was not a good actor, and they had him play two different characters. It was so annoying. But anyway, so yeah. Now I will say that that's maybe going too far for animation. Because
for animation, you're right. I just kind of wanted to have the opportunity to say this on the radio show. I thought that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a thing that you know drawn. I would have always liked to have seen. But also I recognize that a lot of the time you would probably have to like pay estates of people, especially for like you know folks that aren't with us anymore and things like that. It's difficult to get unless you're doing parody, and it would be, even though this is sort of a parody thing, it would be hard to call it that for that particular example. You know, unless you're doing just a straight up parody thing where you're like, you know, I made this guy in this one panel look like Bill Clinton because I'm making fun of Clinton. You know, you wouldn't have to pay for that. But if you had like a straight up character that was in every panel, yeah, you probably have to pay for that.
Yeah, fair enough. As long as you say that it's not supposed to look like them. Like, oh, does it? Wow, okay, sure.
I mean, that's why at the end I wrote that thing where I was like, you know, likenesses that are, you know, similar to other people is entirely unintentional. Wink, wink. But anyway...
Killer Croc's not supposed to look like Ned Beatty.
Oh, you know what's funny about the Killer Croc thing? He was the first character that Ned Beatty mentioned that he wanted to retroactively make a 60s version of. We're 21 issues in, we've still never seen him. I don't know what that's about. He said we will definitely do a 60s version of Killer Croc. We've had the 60s version of Harley Quinn already, but we've not seen that yet. So yeah.
It's weird for me. Gee knows. It's weird for those of you on the radio show. I just scratched my nose. So it's weird for me to think that they would do something like this. Harley Quinn's such a contemporary character.
Yeah.
But there are characters from the 60s that never made it into the show.
That's right.
There are characters from before the 60s that never made it in the show. So when I see that stuff and things like Egghead exist, I'm like, holy crap. Can't we choose some characters that were staples from the inception of Batman?
Well, I will say that there really aren't very many that they didn't use, and we've already had the Harlan Ellison adaptation of the Two-Face story, so we got that. I mean, aside from Two-Face, as far as characters that predate Batman or were there during that show that are like major characters that show never did, name one.
Yeah, that's fair.
Name one.
Aside from Two-Face, you know, that's.
I mean, I could name really minor characters, but there's a lot of kind of who cares. I mean, yeah, they made up a lot of things, but the other thing you got to keep in mind is that from their perspective, the characters in Batman that people knew were the Joker. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you're talking. It's difficult in our day and age to look back at this with any kind of historical perspective because these characters have permeated in culture for years and years and years. That show made these characters recognizable.